My sister, Emma, is at my desk. Her back is to me, but I can see the tension in her shoulders, the almost feverish energy in her movements. Her manicured nails, always perfectly painted a shade of defiant red, tremble slightly as she shreds the thick, cream-colored envelope. The Harvard crest, small and embossed, is ripped in two, then four, then too many pieces to count. She's meticulous in her destruction. This isn't just tearing, it's a ritual. I watch her. My reflection in the antique mirror on my wall shows a girl with a disturbingly placid expression. This is the moment I'm supposed to scream, to rage, to grab the letter or what's left of it and try to piece together my shattered dreams. That's what I did last time. But this time, I don't scream. This time, a small, almost imperceptible smile touches my lips. Emma finishes her task, a little puff of air escaping her lips as if she's just completed a strenuous workout. She turns, expecting tears, expecting the familiar explosion. Instead, she sees me, leaning against the doorframe, that faint smile still in place. Her brow furrows. The satisfaction drains from her face, replaced by a flicker of confusion, maybe even a touch of fear. It's a new look for her. I quite like it. "What?" she finally says, her voice a little breathless. The torn pieces of my Harvard acceptance letter, the one with the full scholarship, flutter to the carpet like macabre confetti. "Aren't you going to, you know?" "Know what, Emma?" I ask, my voice even, calm. The smell of brewing coffee is stronger now, a counterpoint to the bitter taste of betrayal that, surprisingly, isn't coating my tongue today. "Freak out? Cry? Tell Mom and Dad I'm a monster?" She gestures to the shredded paper, her hand still trembling. "It's Harvard, Maya. Full ride. Gone." I push myself off the doorframe and walk slowly into the room. I stop a few feet from her, my gaze steady on hers. The air between us crackles, not with my anger, but with her unease. This isn't how the scene is supposed to play. "Thank you, Emma," I say, my voice soft but clear. Her eyes widen. "What did you just say?" "I said thank you." I even manage a little nod. "You've actually saved me some trouble." This is, of course, a lie. And also the truest thing I've ever said to her. Because Emma doesn't know my secret. She doesn't know that this isn't the first time she's destroyed my Harvard letter. She doesn't know that I've lived this day before, that I've lived this life before. I died at 25. Unsuccessful, bitter. My potential a withered thing, choked by a lifetime of Emma's calculated sabotage and my own reactive despair. My last coherent thought in that sterile, beeping hospital room, with the antiseptic smell clinging to everything, was a desperate wish for another chance, a chance to do it differently. And somehow, impossibly, I got it. I woke up a year ago, back in my 17-year-old body, the memories of my previous failed life as vivid and painful as fresh wounds. At first, the terror was overwhelming. The déjà vu, the knowledge of future heartbreaks, future betrayals. But then, a strange clarity emerged. I knew her playbook. I knew all her moves. And I knew with absolute certainty that fighting her, engaging in the endless cycle of drama and recrimination, was a losing game for me. It had only ever made both our lives worse. Emma is staring at me, her mouth slightly agape. The confusion is warring with suspicion. "Saved you trouble? Are you insane? This was your dream." "Was it?" I counter, tilting my head. "Or was it just the dream everyone expected me to have?" I let that hang in the air for a moment. The truth is, Harvard was a dream once. But this second time around, my dreams have shifted, expanded. I walk past her towards my window. The sun is just beginning to paint the sky in hues of pink and orange. A new day. A new life. Literally. "You really don't care?" She presses, her voice laced with disbelief. She needs me to care. My distress is her validation. I turn back, my smile a little wider now. "Oh, I care about my future, Emma, deeply." I pause, letting my gaze sweep over her, a hint of something knowing in my eyes. "It's just, Harvard isn't the only path. I have other options, you know. Options you couldn't even begin to imagine." I leave her standing there amidst the ruins of my Harvard acceptance, her face a mask of stunned bewilderment. The smell of coffee finally reaches its peak, rich and inviting. I head downstairs. For the first time in either of my lives, I feel like I'm the one holding all the cards. And Emma, for once, has no idea what game we're even playing. This is going to be interesting. The air in the kitchen feels lighter, the sunlight streaming through the window brighter. Mom is humming. Dad is reading the news on his tablet. Neither of them has any idea of the little drama that just unfolded upstairs, or the bigger one that's about to. I pour myself a cup of coffee, the warmth seeping into my hands. It's a good morning, a very good morning indeed. Later that day, I find myself touching my neck, right where the flimsy plastic band of a hospital bracelet once chafed my skin. It's an unconscious gesture, a ghost of a sensation. The memory, though, is anything but ghostly. It's solid, heavy, a constant companion in this second life. The antiseptic smell of that hospital room, a smell I can conjure with terrifying ease, always brings with it the crushing weight of regret. Emma's sabotage hadn't started with Harvard, not in my first life and not in this one. It was a pattern woven into the fabric of our childhood. Little things at first. My favorite doll mysteriously broken. A school project accidentally ruined with paint just hours before it was due. I remember the triumphant glint in her eyes even then, quickly masked by feigned innocence. As we grew older, the stakes got higher. She'd spread rumors, subtle at first, then more damaging, turning friends against me. She'd borrow my notes before a crucial exam, only for them to reappear, coffee-stained and useless after the fact. She'd flirt outrageously with any boy I showed the slightest interest in, her conquest another notch on her belt of my misery. The Harvard incident, the first time around, had been a massive blow. I'd discovered the torn letter, just like this morning, and I'd erupted. Screams, accusations, a physical altercation that left us both bruised and our parents bewildered and angry. I'd tried to salvage it, contacted Harvard, but Emma had been thorough. She'd somehow gotten into my email, deleted correspondence, muddied the waters so effectively that my desperate attempts to explain looked like frantic, unstable excuses. I ended up at a local college, resentful and defeated. My spark, the one that had burned so brightly, began to dim. Emma, meanwhile, had thrived on the drama, on being the wronged sister, the one who had to deal with my instability. She'd gone to a decent university, not Harvard, but she'd spun her narrative, always the victim, always put upon. My first life unspooled from there in a series of missed opportunities and simmering bitterness. I never quite recovered from the feeling of being perpetually undermined. I chose unchallenging jobs, afraid to aim high lest Emma find a way to shoot me down. My relationships were fraught with insecurity. I saw her sabotage even when it wasn't there, a paranoia born from years of experience. I died at 25 from an illness that perhaps my beaten-down spirit just didn't have the strength to fight. My last days were filled with a suffocating sense of waste. Emma had visited, of course, her expression a perfect blend of sorrow and subtle, almost imperceptible satisfaction. Even on my deathbed, she was winning. This morning, watching her shred that letter, the weight of all those memories pressed down on me. But something was different. It wasn't the sharp, agonizing pain of a fresh wound. It was the dull ache of an old injury, one I'd learned to live with, one I was now determined to heal properly. My biggest realization, lying in that hospital bed the first time, was that my reactions, my rage, my despair, had fueled her. Fighting Emma had only made both our lives worse. She'd become a monster, yes, but I'd let her monstrosity define me, no more. I take out my phone. In my previous life, after the Harvard debacle, I'd frantically emailed the scholarship committee, trying to undo the damage. I still remember the contact person, a Miss Albright. This time, I open my email, find the draft I'd instinctively saved from my first life's panicked attempts, and I look at Emma's email address, the one she uses for official correspondence, the one she thinks is so clever because it's a variation of her middle name, not her first, the one she used to intercept and delete crucial communications. With a strange sense of detachment, I type out a brief, polite email to Miss Albright from a throwaway account I created last year, posing as a concerned fellow applicant. I vaguely mentioned potential irregularities in an application from someone matching Emma's profile, suggesting they might want to double-check certain extracurricular claims. I don't name Emma, I don't give specifics, just a whisper of doubt. It's a horrible thing to do in a way. But Emma taught me the game. This time, I'm just playing it better. I press send. Then, more importantly, I go into the sent folder of Emma's school email account. I'd reset her password last week using the security questions only a sister would know, then changed it back, leaving no trace. And delete the record of my Harvard application submission. If Harvard does have questions about her application now, they won't see my identical superior one in her sent items, forwarded as her own. Two can play at digital manipulation. A small, cold knot tightens in my stomach, but it's not guilt, it's focus. I'm not just avoiding Emma's traps this time. I'm setting a few of my own, or rather, I'm letting her walk into the ones she dug for me. I glance at the calendar on my phone. Oxford. Their international undergraduate applications close in exactly 72 hours. The weight of memory is still there, but now it's not an anchor. It's fuel. The university library is my sanctuary. It smells of old books, aging paper, and the faint, lingering scent of floor wax and forgotten coffee. The rhythmic thud of returned volumes being dropped into the return slot is a comforting beat in the quiet hum of study. I'm shelving books in the history section, my part-time job a welcome respite from the charged atmosphere at home. It's here, amidst the towering shelves, that I see her. Dr. Sarah Chen, my former history professor from my first life, the one who believed in me, who saw that spark even when it was sputtering. In this life, of course, she doesn't know me from Adam. Or Eve, in this case. She's just a respected academic, probably deep in her own research. My heart gives a little lurch. This is it, one of my carefully laid plans. In my previous life, Dr. Chen had been working on a particularly difficult research project about trade routes in the late Ming Dynasty. She'd mentioned it in passing during a tutorial, the frustration evident in her voice. I'd been fascinated even then, but too consumed by my own dramas to offer any real help. After my rebirth, I'd spent countless hours in this very library, not just studying for my current A-levels, but devouring everything I could find on her specific area of interest. My adult mind, my retained knowledge from a future she hadn't yet lived, gave me a unique perspective. I know, for instance, that she's currently hitting a wall with a particular set of untranslated shipping manifests from a minor port in Fujian province. I also know that a visiting scholar from Fudan University, who won't arrive for another 6 months in this timeline, will eventually help her crack them. I take a deep breath. This is a gamble. Approaching her now, as a 17-year-old library assistant, with knowledge I shouldn't possess, is risky. But Oxford is on the line. Dr. Chen is frowning at a laptop, a pile of books beside her. The soft thud of a book I'm shelving echoes a little too loudly. She looks up, a polite but distant inquiry in her eyes. Dr. Chen? I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Sorry to interrupt. I couldn't help but overhear you mention to a colleague last week something about the Haicheng port records. Lie, I hadn't overheard anything, I just knew. Her frown deepens slightly. I might have, why? This is the moment. My carefully constructed research proposal, concise, insightful, referencing obscure sources she wouldn't expect a high school student to know, is clutched in my hand. I spent weeks on this, honing it, making it seem plausible that a particularly gifted and observant student might have stumbled upon these connections. I've been doing some independent research for a history competition, I say, trying to sound earnest and a little shy. And I came across some interesting discrepancies in the accepted narratives about early Sino-Portuguese trade initiations, particularly concerning the silver outflow. I wondered if perhaps these observations might be relevant. I hold out the folder. My hand is surprisingly steady. The musty smell of old books suddenly seems sharper, more intense. She hesitates. I can see the skepticism in her eyes. A kid from the library? But there's also a flicker of curiosity. Academics are, by nature, curious. Well, Maya, is it? She says, glancing at my name tag. I nod. That's rather ambitious for a high school project. She takes the folder. I'm quite busy, but I'll glance at it when I have a moment. My heart sinks a little. A polite dismissal. But then, as she idly flips open the first page, her eyes scan the introductory paragraph. Her fingers still, she reads it again, more slowly this time. The distant, polite mask slips. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, focus intently on the page. She looks up at me, really looks at me for the first time. "Where did you find this reference to the Lin family ledgers?" she asks, her voice sharper now, all business. "Most scholars believe those were lost in the coastal evacuation of 1661. I cross-referenced some Jesuit missionary correspondence with local gazetteers from Jiangzhou Prefecture," I explain, the words flowing easily from memory. "There's a passing mention of a merchant family, the Lins, who moved inland, taking their records with them. The timeline matches." Dr. Chen is silent for a long moment, her gaze fixed on my proposal. The soft thud of books continues, unnoticed by either of us. The air around us feels charged, like the silence before a thunderstorm. Finally, she closes the folder and looks at me, a new respect in her eyes. "This is unexpectedly thorough, Maya, remarkably insightful." She taps the folder. "You're right, this could be the missing piece I've been looking for." A small, genuine smile touches her lips. It's the smile I remember, the one that always made me feel like I could achieve anything. My own vulnerability, the fear of her rejection, begins to recede. "I'm glad it might be helpful," I say, relief making my voice a little breathless. "Helpful?" Dr. Chen chuckles, a dry academic sound. "Maya, this is potentially groundbreaking." She leans forward, her eyes gleaming. "Tell me, have you considered applying to Oxford for your undergraduate studies?" My breath catches. This is it. I I have, Professor, I manage. "It's my first choice, but the deadline is—" "In 3 days, I know," she says, nodding. "It's tight. But with a mind like yours—" She pauses, then a decisive look settles on her face. "I'm on the history faculty's admissions board for overseas students, Maya." My carefully constructed composure almost shatters. I knew she had connections to Oxford from my first life, but being on the admissions board? This is more than I could have hoped for. "I see a lot of applications," Dr. Chen continues, her gaze unwavering. "Many are technically brilliant. Few show this kind of original thought, this hunger for discovery." She taps my proposal again. "This is what Oxford is looking for." She leans back, a thoughtful expression on her face. "How would you feel about me mentoring you through your application? We'll need to work fast, of course, but I believe we can make a very compelling case." The musty smell of old books suddenly smells like the sweetest perfume. The soft thud of returned volumes sounds like a drum roll. My hidden network, built on the ashes of a past life, is starting to pay off. Oxford, it's no longer a distant dream, it's a tangible possibility, offered by someone who once believed in me and who, I can see, is starting to believe in me all over again. Emma is not having a good week. I only know this through the subtle tells. The way her perfectly applied lipstick is just a fraction too tight around her mouth, the impatient tap-tap-tapping of her acrylic nails on her phone screen, the slight, almost imperceptible tremor in her voice when she answers a call from an unknown number. To everyone else, she's still Emma, confident, popular, effortlessly gliding through life. But I see the cracks. Her confusion after I thanked her for shredding my Harvard letter has festered. My calm, my lack of expected histrionics, has clearly unnerved her. It's like I've changed the rules of a game only she knew we were playing, and now her winning strategy is useless. The real panic, however, starts on Wednesday. I'm in the kitchen, ostensibly doing homework, but really just observing. Emma walks in, her face pale, under her usual layer of expertly applied foundation. She's just come from the school guidance counselor's office. The harsh fluorescent light of that office always seemed to strip away pretense, and it looks like it's done a number on Emma today. "They had questions," she mutters, more to herself than to me, as she yanks open the fridge and stares blankly inside. "Who had questions about what?" I ask, my voice neutral, eyes still on my textbook. The smell of yesterday's lasagna, a scent that usually comforts Emma, doesn't seem to be working its magic. "Harvard," she says, her voice tight. "About my application. Some discrepancies." I hum sympathetically, not looking up. Oh, that's odd? Like what? I don't know, she snaps, slamming the fridge door shut. Something about my volunteer hours at the Children's Hospital and my debate club captaincy. They said some of the dates don't match their records, or something. Her facade is definitely cracking. The confident veneer is giving way to a raw, frayed panic. I know exactly what's happening. My little anonymous email, combined with the fact that her application, which heavily borrowed from my own genuine achievements from my first life, is now being scrutinized. Emma, in her arrogance, always assumed no one would ever check the fine details. She was usually right, but a whisper of doubt can be a powerful thing. She starts pacing the kitchen, her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. I don't understand. It's all there. It's all true. Except it isn't. Not all of it. And certainly not all hers. She tries to call me later that evening. I see her name flash on my screen and let it go to voicemail. She tries again and again. The frantic energy practically radiates through the phone. When she finally corners me in the hallway the next morning, her eyes are wide and bloodshot. Maya, you have to help me, she pleads, grabbing my arm. Her perfectly manicured nails dig into my skin. They're asking for more proof, for recommendations I thought I had. Did you say something to them? I meet her gaze, my expression one of mild surprise. Me? Emma, why would I do that? It's your dream school. I gently remove her hand from my arm. Besides, I've been busy with my own things. But she looks lost, defeated. The fight has gone out of her, replaced by a desperate, grasping fear. This is new territory for Emma. She's used to being in control, used to me being the one to fall apart. A flicker of something that might be pity, or perhaps just a strategic opportunity, stirs in me. Look, I say softly, my voice full of carefully crafted concern. Maybe there's just been a misunderstanding. These things happen. No, this is bad, Maya, her voice cracks. I might lose everything. And here is my quiet power move, wrapped in the guise of sisterly support. Okay, I say, nodding slowly. Let's sit down. Show me what they sent. Maybe I can help you figure out what to do with your college applications. I stress the plural. There are other great schools, you know. Maybe Harvard isn't the right fit after all. Her eyes search mine, looking for the catch, the trap. She finds only apparent sincerity. You'd help me, she whispers. Of course, Emma, I say, my smile gentle. We're sisters, aren't we? I steer her towards the living room. Tell me, what is it you really want to do? What's your real passion? Sometimes when one door closes, it's because we're meant to find a different one that's a better fit for who we truly are. I can almost see the gears turning in her head. My unexpected kindness, my focus on her passions, is disarming. She's so used to our dynamic of rivalry that genuine support throws her completely off balance. She starts talking, hesitantly at first, about her art, her quiet love for pottery, things she's always dismissed as hobbies, not serious pursuits. I listen, patiently, guiding her, planting seeds. She has no idea that her Harvard dream is already dead, torpedoed by her own actions and a little nudge from me. And she certainly has no idea that as I'm helping her, I'm also subtly steering her away from anything that might clash with my own, very different academic ambitions. My Oxford application is almost complete, and Emma, lost in her own panic and my unexpected solicitude, is too distracted to even wonder what I might be up to. The stage is set. 3 weeks later, the world has tilted on its axis, at least for me. The frantic, last-minute push for my Oxford application was a blur of essay revisions, document gathering, and quiet, intense coaching from Dr. Chen. She was a miracle worker, her belief in me a steadying hand. Now it's done. Submitted. And I'm in the strange limbo of waiting. The interview. That was the real hurdle. It happened via video call, the connection crackling slightly, a faint static underscoring the immense pressure. I sat at my desk, the same desk where Emma had performed her paper shredding ritual. For the occasion, I wore a crisp white shirt and my father's old silk tie, a slightly faded navy blue. It felt like a talisman, a connection to a stability I craved. the weight of it around my neck was oddly comforting. The panel consisted of 3 academics, their faces serious, their questions incisive. Dr. Chen had prepped me well, but one question nearly threw me. It came from a stern-looking professor with spectacles perched on the end of his nose. "Miss Hayes," he said, his voice a dry Cambridge rasp that somehow made its way to Oxford. "Your academic record is impressive. Your extracurriculars, however, seem focused. We notice your sister Emma, who applied to several American Ivy League institutions, shares a number of similar achievements. Debate club captaincy, extensive volunteer work at the Children's Hospital, even founding the school's historical society. Could you elaborate on your respective contributions?" My blood ran cold for a second. Emma. Of course. Her borrowed achievements, the ones she'd inflated on her applications, were now a potential minefield for me. This was the moment my past life could have reached out and strangled this new one. The static from the computer microphone seemed to grow louder, filling the silence. But I was ready. Dr. Chen and I had anticipated this. My power move wasn't to deny or accuse. It was to distinguish, clearly and calmly. "Professor," I began, my voice even, my gaze direct, "my sister Emma and I have often shared interests, as siblings sometimes do. However, our approaches and levels of commitment have perhaps differed. For instance, while we both participated in the debate club, I was elected captain and led the team to the national finals, focusing on developing research protocols and mentoring junior members. Emma's contributions were more in line with event organization. True, she'd mostly just shown up for the pizza. Regarding the Children's Hospital," I continued, the words flowing smoothly, "I initiated and managed a weekly reading program for long-term patients, coordinating volunteers and securing book donations. Emma assisted with some of the holiday decorating events." Also true. She'd spent an hour hanging tinsel, taken a lot of selfies, and then left. "As for the Historical Society," I said, a small, confident smile playing on my lips, "I founded it, curated our first exhibition on local history, and secured a grant for its continuation. Emma was an early member and contributed some interesting ideas for our initial meetings. She'd attended 2 meetings and suggested a bake sale. I didn't belittle Emma's contributions. I simply, factually, highlighted my own leadership and depth of involvement. I let my genuine passion for history, for making a tangible difference, shine through." I could see Dr. Chen, who wasn't officially on this panel but was observing, give a nearly imperceptible nod. The rest of the interview was challenging but exhilarating. I spoke about my research proposal, my ideas about the Ming Dynasty trade routes, my desire to learn from the specific professors at Oxford whose work I'd admired for years, in this life and the last. There was a spark, a connection, that transcended the crackling audio and the thousands of miles between us. Meanwhile, in a parallel universe of her own making, Emma was struggling. I'd catch glimpses of her, hunched over her laptop, her face a mask of frustration. She was trying to craft authentic applications to less prestigious universities, the ones I'd gently guided her towards. The problem was she didn't have many authentic achievements that truly excited her. Her portfolio of stolen glories was useless now. The process of trying to find her own voice, her own passions, was clearly agonizing. A few days after my interview, an email arrived from Dr. Chen. "Maya, they were exceptionally impressed, particularly with your handling of the sister question. Your authenticity shone through. Cautiously optimistic is the official stance. My unofficial one? Start looking at Oxford College scarves." My heart soared. It wasn't an acceptance, not yet. But it was a beacon of hope. That night, we had a family dinner. The tension was thick enough to spread on toast. Mom and Dad were trying to be cheerful, asking about our respective application processes. Emma mumbled something about a local art college. I spoke vaguely about exploring options. The unspoken Harvard issue hung in the air like a storm cloud. They didn't know about Oxford yet. I wasn't ready to share that, not until it was real. "Well," Dad said, trying to sound upbeat, "I'm sure you'll both end up exactly where you're meant to be." His eyes flickered between Emma and me, a worried crease between his brows. He knew something was off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. As I was clearing the table, my phone buzzed. An email. My stomach did a familiar flip. Too soon for Oxford. Who could it be? I opened it. The subject line was simple. Maya. The sender? Emma. My carefully constructed world tilted again. What now? The email from Emma was short, almost stark. Maya, can we talk? The old swings. Tomorrow after school. No explanation, no preamble. Just a summons. The old swings in the park at the end of our street, that was our childhood spot. The place we went to for secret conferences, for whispered confessions, before the rivalry had consumed everything. A knot of apprehension tightened in my chest. What did she want? Had she found out about Oxford? Was this another trap, another attempt to derail me? My newfound calm felt fragile. The next afternoon, the scent of autumn leaves, damp and earthy, filled the air. The sky was a bruised purple, threatening rain. The park was deserted. I saw Emma sitting on one of rusted, creaking chains of the swing set, moved with a rhythmic groan as she pushed herself gently back and forth. Her usual vibrant colors were muted today. A simple gray sweater, jeans. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was pulled back in a loose ponytail. She looked younger, more vulnerable than I'd seen her in years, in either life. I approached slowly, the crunch of leaves under my sneakers loud in the quiet. The creak of the old swings was a familiar soundtrack to 1,000 forgotten childhood moments. She stopped swinging as I reached her, her feet dragging in the dirt. Thanks for coming, she said, not meeting my eyes. What's up, Emma? I tried to keep my voice neutral, wary. She took a deep breath, then finally looked at me. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and there was a rawness in her expression that took me by surprise. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began, her voice low, about everything. This was not what I expected. I'd braced myself for accusations, for anger, for some new scheme. Not this quiet, almost hesitant introspection. Since the Harvard thing, she continued, her gaze dropping to her hands, which were twisting in her lap. And since you were different. You didn't yell, you just let it go. She looked up again, a genuine bewilderment in her eyes. Why? I chose my words carefully. Because, Emma, I realized that fighting with you about Harvard or anything else wasn't getting me what I wanted. It was just making us both miserable. A humorless laugh escaped her. Yeah, well, I seem to be pretty good at the miserable part. She kicked at a loose stone with the toe of her shoe. Then, the words came in a rush, tumbling out as if a dam had broken. I'm so tired, Maya, so tired of all of it. Of trying to be better, of trying to win, of feeling like I'm never good enough unless someone else is failing. The emotional breakthrough was stunning. This was an Emma I'd never seen, never imagined. The carefully constructed armor of confidence and aggression was gone, revealing the scared, insecure girl beneath. I was so jealous of you, she whispered, the admission hanging heavy in the autumn air. Always. You were so smart, so focused. Everything came so easily to you, or it seemed like it did. And Mom and Dad, they always looked at you with that pride. Her voice cracked. I just wanted them to look at me like that too. Vulnerability. This was real. This wasn't a manipulation. The scent of damp earth and decaying leaves seemed to intensify, a primal smell of endings and beginnings. So I took things, she said, her voice barely audible. Your ideas, your achievements. I thought if I could just have what you had, I'd feel better. But it never worked. It just made me feel worse, emptier. She finally met my gaze, tears welling in her eyes. I never wanted your path, Maya. Not really. I didn't want Harvard. I wanted to feel like I mattered. My own carefully guarded emotions stirred. This confession, so raw, so unexpected, chipped away at years of resentment. My rebirth hadn't just given me a second chance. It had, in a strange way, given Emma one too, by disrupting the toxic pattern we'd been locked in. Emma, I said, my voice softer than I intended. You do matter, but not because of what you achieve or who you beat. You matter because of who you are. I paused, thinking of her hesitant talk about pottery, the fleeting spark of genuine enthusiasm I'd seen. You have your own strengths, your own talents. things that are uniquely yours. I didn't reveal my secret, my knowledge of our past life. It wouldn't help. But the wisdom I'd gained from that life, the painful lessons learned, I could share that. I started talking to her gently about the things I'd noticed she was good at, the things she genuinely enjoyed. Her eye for color, her surprising patience with intricate tasks, her unexpected kindness to animals. Small things, perhaps, but authentic. A fragile hope began to dawn in her eyes. You really think so? I know so, I said. And for the first time, there was no agenda in my words, just a simple truth. Then, the plot twist I hadn't anticipated. She looked at me, a shrewdness flickering back into her gaze, the old Emma making a brief reappearance, but different now, less sharp, more curious. So, she said, a tentative smile playing on her lips, what about you? You said Harvard wasn't the only path. What's your path, Maya? Because I saw Dr. Chen leaving your room the other day with a very official-looking Oxford prospectus. My breath caught. Of course, she wasn't entirely oblivious. I met her gaze, no point in hiding it now. Yes, I said. I've applied to Oxford. She didn't look jealous. She looked impressed and something else. Relieved? Oxford, she breathed. Wow, Maya, that's really you. And in that moment, something shifted irrevocably between us. The rivalry, the bitterness, it didn't disappear entirely. Years of ingrained behavior don't vanish overnight, but it was overshadowed by a new, tentative understanding. An alliance. So, Emma said, a genuine, lighter smile finally breaking through. You're going for ancient history, and I'm maybe going to try that art therapy course at the community college, the one I told you about. Sounds like a plan, I said, and I smiled back. A real smile. We sat there for a while longer, the old swings creaking, the autumn air growing colder. We talked about our different paths, our different dreams. For the first time, it felt like we were on the same team, just playing in different fields. A new tension, however, was already forming in my mind. How were we going to explain this detente to our parents? They were so used to the war, peace was going to be utterly baffling. This unexpected collaboration, this sudden shift in our deeply entrenched dynamic, was bound to cause an explosion of its own. 3 days later, the explosion came, right on schedule. The setting, Sunday dinner, the menu, Mom's roast chicken, usually a source of comfort, tonight just another prop in our family drama. The air was thick with unspoken questions, the clink of silverware on china unnaturally loud in the suffocating silence. Mom and Dad had noticed the change, of course. Emma and I weren't sniping at each other. We weren't competing for parental attention. Emma had even, to their astonishment, complimented a drawing I'd been sketching for my Oxford portfolio. They'd exchanged bewildered glances over our heads all weekend. So, Dad began, clearing his throat after a particularly long, awkward silence. You two seem remarkably chummy lately. He tried for a light tone, but the underlying suspicion was evident. Is everything all right? Mom chimed in, her brow furrowed with concern. You're not planning something, are you? In her experience, our collaboration usually meant trouble for everyone else. This was it. Time to rip off the Band-Aid. Everything's fine, Mom, I said calmly, placing my knife and fork neatly on my plate. Actually, everything's pretty good. Emma, beside me, took a visible breath and nodded. Yeah, we've just been talking, figuring some things out. Figuring what out? Dad pressed, his gaze sharp. The clinking of cutlery stopped. All eyes were on us. Years of family dysfunction, of unspoken resentments, and carefully managed expectations seemed to surface in that moment, swirling in the air like dust motes in a sunbeam. Our parents, in their own way, had fueled the rivalry. They'd praised my academic achievements so lavishly that Emma felt invisible. They'd excused Emma's spirited behavior so often that I felt perpetually unheard. They hadn't meant to, I knew that now, in this second life. But they had. My quiet power move was simple honesty. Dad, Mom, I began, my voice steady. I didn't get into Harvard. A stunned silence. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad's face fell. This was the reaction Emma had always craved from them regarding my failures. "Oh, Maya, honey, I'm so sorry," Mom whispered. "But why didn't you tell us? What happened?" Before I could answer, Emma spoke up, her voice surprisingly strong. "It doesn't matter what happened with Harvard, because Maya has an even better opportunity, a real one that's perfect for her." Mom and Dad stared at Emma, completely thrown. Emma defending me? Emma championing my success? This was unheard of. "I've applied to Oxford University," I stated, meeting their shocked gazes. "For history. My interview was last week, and Dr. Chen from the university library is mentoring me. She thinks I have a strong chance." The silence stretched, taut and electric. Dad looked from me to Emma and back again, his expression unreadable. Mom just looked bewildered. "Oxford?" Dad finally said, his voice faint. "But Harvard was always the plan. Your scholarship." "Harvard was a plan, Dad," I corrected gently. "Not necessarily my best plan. Oxford is where I want to be. It's the right fit for what I want to study, for who I am." "And Emma?" Mom asked, turning to her other daughter, still trying to process this new dynamic. "What about you, sweetheart? You seemed so set on those big American universities, too." Emma squared her shoulders. "Uh, I'm applying to the art therapy program at Northwood Community College," she announced, a hint of defiance, but also a new, quiet pride in her voice. "I'm also looking at some foundation art courses. It's what I want to do." The confusion on our parents' faces was palpable. This wasn't the script they knew. Their daughters, the academic prodigy and the dazzling socialite, were suddenly redrawing their own maps and supporting each other in the process. It was too much. Too fast. "But community college?" Mom began, a worried frown creasing her forehead. "Emma, are you sure? After all your hard work—" "Her hard work towards what, Mom?" I interjected, my voice firm but not unkind. "Towards a dream that wasn't even hers? Towards trying to live up to an image that made her miserable?" Emma looked at me, a grateful flicker in her eyes. We were a united front. For the first time ever, the strength of that unexpected alliance was formidable. Both of us, calm, resolute, articulating our own desires, our own paths. Our parents, faced with this combined certainty, had no choice but to listen. Their resistance, born from years of habit and their own unexamined expectations, slowly began to crumble. It wasn't an easy conversation. Years of ingrained family patterns don't unravel in a single dinner. There were tears, mostly Mom's, frustrated sighs, mostly Dad's, and a lot of confused questions. But by the end of the evening, something had shifted. A space had been cleared. A possibility for a new kind of family dynamic, one where both daughters could be seen and supported for who they truly were, had been opened. The immediate confrontation was over, but the resolution, the true healing, would take time. Now the focus shifted. For me, at least. The waiting period for the Oxford decision had officially begun. The air in the house was still a little charged, but it was the charge of change, not conflict. And for the first time, I felt like I could breathe. The next 2 weeks crawled by with agonizing slowness. Each day was a mix of hope and a gnawing anxiety that felt disturbingly familiar to the dread of my past life. The ping of every email notification, the rustle of mail being delivered, each sound sent a jolt through me. Was this it? Was this the news that would define my future again? I tried to stay busy. I continued my part-time job at the library, the scent of old books and quiet study a soothing balm. I threw myself into my A-level studies, determined to have strong fallback options, just in case. And surprisingly, I spent more time with Emma. Our new alliance was fragile but real. We talked, really talked, in a way we never had before. She was genuinely excited about her art therapy course, her eyes lighting up when she described the modules, the potential to help people through creativity. It was a passion I'd never seen in her. A quiet, steady flame that was so much more compelling than the dazzling, empty fireworks she used to chase. She was even supportive of me, asking about Oxford, about my research ideas, with a genuine curiosity that warmed me more than any academic praise. The family dynamic was slowly, awkwardly recalibrating. Mom and Dad were still a bit bewildered, but they were trying. They asked Emma about her art. They listened to my tentative Oxford plans without immediate dismissal. Small steps. Healing was a process, not an event. Dr. Chen was my rock during this time. We met for coffee, and her calm confidence was infectious. Maya, she said, her eyes kind but astute. Oxford doesn't just look at grades. They look for a spark, for intellectual curiosity, for resilience. You've shown them all of that. Whatever happens, you have an exceptional mind, and you will find your path. Her encouragement was a lifeline, a reminder that my worth wasn't solely dependent on one acceptance letter. This was a lesson I was slowly, painfully relearning in this second life. Success meant more than just getting into Oxford. It meant becoming the person I was meant to be, regardless of external validation. One afternoon, an email landed in my inbox with the subject line, Oxford University Admissions Update. My heart leaped into my throat. My hands trembled as I clicked it open. My breath hitched. Dear applicant, thank you for your continued interest. We are writing to inform you about an upcoming open day. A false alarm. Just a generic marketing email. The wave of disappointment was so intense, it almost buckled my knees. I laughed, a shaky, slightly hysterical sound. The waiting was definitely getting to me. Emma found me a few minutes later, still pale. She didn't say anything, just squeezed my shoulder. A small gesture of understanding that meant more than words. The expected decision date, according to the online forums and Dr. Chen's intel, was the following Tuesday. Monday night was unbearable. I barely slept, my mind a whirlwind of what-ifs. What if I failed again? What if, even with this second chance, I wasn't good enough? The ghosts of my past life's failures whispered in the dark. Tuesday morning, I went through the motions, school, library. Every email notification made my stomach clench. Nothing. Afternoon. Still nothing. The tension was a living thing, coiling in my chest, making it hard to breathe. I was home, trying to focus on a history essay, when my laptop pinged. Another email. My hands were slick with sweat. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes for a moment, and then, with a sense of impending doom or destiny, I clicked it open. The subject line: Decision on your application to the University of Oxford. This was it, the real one. My future condensed into a few kilobytes of data waiting on my screen. The computer screen glowed, the words, Decision on your application, burning into my retinas. The house was silent, unnervingly so. Even the usual suburban hum of lawnmowers and distant traffic seemed to have faded away, holding its breath with me. My finger hovered over the mouse, a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor running through my hand. This was the moment. Again, but different. So different. I clicked. The email opened, a stark black font on a white background. My eyes scanned, desperate for the key phrases. We are pleased to inform you. There it was, pleased to inform you. A wave of emotion, so potent, so overwhelming, crashed over me. Joy, sharp and sweet. Relief, so profound it left me breathless. Vindication, a quiet, powerful hum that resonated deep in my bones. I had done it, against all odds, against the weight of a past life's failures, against Emma's sabotage, against my own lingering doubts. I had done it. Tears welled, blurring the glowing screen. But these weren't the bitter, angry tears of my past. These were tears of triumph, of release. I pressed my hands to my mouth to stifle a sob that was half laughter, half pure, unadulterated joy. The silence of the house was shattered by my own shaky gasp. Oxford. I was going to Oxford. The first person I thought of, the first person I needed to tell wasn't Mom or Dad. It was Emma. I found her in her room, sketching furiously in a large notepad, her brow furrowed in concentration. The scent of charcoal and fixative spray hung in the air. She looked up as I entered, a questioning look on her face. She saw my tears, my trembling hands, and her expression softened with concern. Maya, what is it? What's wrong? I couldn't speak. I just held out my phone, the email displayed on the screen. She took it, her eyes scanning the words. Her own breath hitched. Then, a slow, incredulous smile spread across her face. A genuine, unadulterated smile of pure happiness. For me. "You got in," she whispered, her eyes shining. "Maya, you actually got in! Oxford!" She launched herself at me, throwing her arms around me in a hug that was surprisingly fierce, surprisingly wonderful. There was no jealousy, no resentment, no hint of the old Emma, just pure, unadulterated sisterly pride. "I knew you could do it," she exclaimed, pulling back, her hands on my shoulders. "I told you Oxford was you." That moment, her genuine happiness for me was almost as sweet as the acceptance itself. It was proof that we had truly changed, that our new alliance was real. Telling mom and dad was an experience. Shock was their first reaction, then a hesitant, dawning pride. Oxford. It was a world away from their expectations, but they couldn't deny the magnitude of it. They looked at me, really looked at me, and saw not just their academically gifted daughter, but someone who had fought for her dream and won. They even looked at Emma with a new appreciation, seeing her genuine support for me. Later that evening, alone in my room, I thought about my past life. The failures, the bitterness, the quiet desperation of that hospital room. It all felt like a distant, fading nightmare. This new life, this second chance, was vibrant and full of possibility. I sent a heartfelt email to Dr. Chen, thanking her for her belief, for her guidance. She replied almost immediately, her joy palpable even through the screen. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. The girl looking back was different, stronger, more serene. She had faced her demons, both internal and external, and she had emerged, not unscathed, but whole. She was finally becoming the person she was always meant to be. My Oxford acceptance wasn't just a letter. It was a key, unlocking a future I had once thought impossible. A new chapter was beginning, and I was ready to write it. 6 months can change everything. Or perhaps 6 months can solidify the changes that were already painstakingly set in motion. I'm sitting in my small, slightly cluttered room in one of Oxford's ancient colleges. The walls are stone, cool to the touch, even on a surprisingly warm spring day. The scent of old books, damp earth from the quad, and the faint, sweet aroma of blooming wisteria from the window box drifts in. Bicycle bells chime in the distance, a quintessential Oxford sound. Emma is here, perched on the end of my bed, sketching the gargoyle outside my window. She's visiting for the weekend, a splash of vibrant, modern energy in these hallowed, historical halls. She's thriving. Her art therapy program at Northwood is proving to be her true calling. She's already volunteering at a local center for troubled teens, using her art to help them express emotions they can't voice. Her eyes, once shadowed with jealousy and discontent, now shine with purpose. There's a lightness to her, a genuine confidence that outshines any of her previous manufactured personas. "He's got a rather mournful look, this one," Emma says, tilting her head at her sketch, then at the stone gargoyle. "Like he's seen too many students stress over exams." I laugh. "Probably. He's been here for about 400 years. My own life here is more than I could have ever dreamed, even in my most optimistic moments of this second chance. My studies are challenging, exhilarating. The tutors push me, the discussions are invigorating, and the access to ancient manuscripts and forgotten histories makes my heart sing. I'm even mentoring a few first-year students who are struggling to find their footing, sharing the kind of encouragement Dr. Chen gave me. It feels good to pay it forward. Last month, during a short break, I did something I'd been putting off. I went back to the hospital where I'd died in my previous life. I just stood outside, looking at the imposing brick building, the place where one life ended and another impossibly began. There was no fear, no bitterness, just a profound sense of gratitude and a quiet understanding of how fragile, how precious, a second chance truly is. The antiseptic smell I'd always dreaded now just smelled like a hospital, a place of healing for some, a place of transition. A few weeks ago, I encountered a pair of sisters in a local coffee shop, their argument sharp and bitter, echoing so many of my past confrontations with Emma. On an impulse, I'd left an anonymous note on their table before I left, something simple. "Your paths may be different, but you don't have to walk them alone." I don't know if it helped, but the act of offering that small piece of wisdom, hard earned from 2 lifetimes, felt significant. Maybe the ripples of change can spread further than we know. Mom and Dad visited last term. They walked around Oxford with wide, slightly awestruck eyes. The pride in their faces for both of us was genuine, unforced. Dad awkwardly told Emma how much he admired her courage for pursuing her art, for finding her own way. Mom held my hand and just said, "You seem so happy, Maya, truly happy." And I was. The healing in our family is slow, still a work in progress, but it's real. They're learning to see us as individuals, not just as a matched set of warring expectations. There's even a hint of a romantic subplot in my life now. A kind, intelligent history postgrad named Alex, who seems to value my thoughts on obscure medieval texts as much as my laugh. He knows nothing of my past life, of course, but he sees me, the Maya I am now, and that's more than enough. The most surreal moment came last week. A letter arrived, forwarded from my home address. It was from a high school student, a girl from a neighboring town. She'd read an article about a local history project I'd initiated before leaving for Oxford. A small thing, really, about forgotten women in our town's past. She wrote that my project had inspired her to start her own, to look for the hidden stories in her own community. "You made me realize," she wrote, "that anyone can make history interesting and that everyone's story matters." Reading her words, I felt a circle complete. My past life's bitterness had been about my own stolen achievements, my own silenced voice. This new life, it was about something more. It was about finding my voice, yes, but also about helping others find theirs. My final quiet power move, perhaps the most significant one, is something no one knows about yet. Using some of the money I'd saved from my part-time job and a small, unexpected inheritance from a great aunt I barely remembered from my first life. Another strange ripple of this second chance. I've anonymously funded a small scholarship at my old high school. It's not for the top academic student or the star athlete. It's for the overlooked student, the quiet one with a hidden passion, the one who, like me, might just need a little belief, a little opportunity to find their own extraordinary path. Emma finishes her sketch and holds it up. The mournful gargoyle looks surprisingly noble through her eyes. "Not bad, huh?" she says, a smudge of charcoal on her nose. "It's brilliant, Em," I say, and I mean it. She grins, that new, easy grin that reaches her eyes. "So, ancient historian," she says, "what's next on the agenda for the conquering heroines?" I look out at the spires of Oxford, at the impossibly blue sky, at my sister, my friend, and a profound sense of peace settles over me. The journey has been long, winding, spanning 2 lifetimes. But I'm here. We're here. Brunch, I suggest. And then maybe we can change the world. One quiet act of kindness, one rediscovered passion at a time. She links her arm through mine. I like the sound of that. As we walk out into the bright spring sunshine, the ancient stones warm beneath my feet, I smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes the best revenge, the truest victory, is simply becoming who you were always meant to be, and this time I finally am.